Hi, I'm Jonathan M0JSX. Thanks for joining me today. And it occurred to me that if you're new to ham radio, then we yak on about a lot of jargon that you may not actually know what it means. So I thought I would do a quick video where I go through what I think is probably some of the basics, and it's not a definitive list, of the jargon that we go on about. So I've drawn up this list, and as I say, there are more. But I think if you know these, then you've probably got a good head start in your amateur radio career. Now, on the left-hand side, we have some Q codes, as they're called. And on the right-hand side, we've got some other phrases which are relevant. Now, Q codes, this is not a definitive list of Q codes. There are many, many more. But these are pretty much the ones you're going to come across in ham radio on a day-to-day basis. So I thought, this little video, we'd go through them. So a QSO, well, that's quite simply having a conversation. You know, if I was to talk to each other on the radio, we would be having a QSO. So that's that one ticked off. QRZ, if I make my R a little bit more obvious, QRZ, well, you'd ask that either as a question or as an answer, but normally it's done as a question, and it's supposed to be who is calling me. Nowadays it tends to be used as a bit of an alternative to CQ, which is actually not on this list. But CQ obviously means I'm calling any station. QRZ kind of is used a bit interchangeably with CQ. It's not supposed to be, but that's how it tends to be done now. So I might call, if I'm calling CQ, for instance, on 40 metres, I might say CQ40, CQ40. This is Mike 0, Juliet, Sierra X-ray, QRZ. And that might be how I finish it. I might also finish it with over. We'll come to that in a minute. So that's QRZ. QSL. This can mean multiple things, but basically it's a confirmation. So if I ask QSL as a question, I might say, I might just say, I don't know, maybe I'm trying to copy someone's call sign, M0ABC QSL, because I'm asking, make sure I've got their call sign right. If I'm saying, yes, you've got your call sign right, well, then I could either say, yeah, QSL, or I might reply with Roger. Again, we'll come back to Roger in a second, but that's QSL. Now, QRM and QRN get used pretty interchangeably, it has to be said, but there is a distinct difference if you look up the Q code dictionary. QRM is man-made interference. QRN is natural interference. When the Q codes are being developed, I think they meant that QRM would be someone operating quite close to your frequency, so man-made, but of speech, of a radio transmission, not necessarily as we think of QRM now with being general noise, whereas QRN is natural noise. So that might be the interference you suffer from static shocks of a lightning storm or something like that. So that's QRM and QRM. Basically, they're both interference. Most people nowadays tend to use QRM for everything, but they are two distinct things. QTH, quite simply, is where you're operating from. So your QTH could be your home, it could be your car, it could be the park that you're operating POTA from, but QTH is where you're operating from. You might also hear people refer to their home QTH, obviously they're referring to their house. QSY, I'm going to change frequency. I might say, if I'm operating on 40 metres and I'm deciding that I'm done operating on 40 metres, but I'm not finished operating, because that would be one that I've not actually put on the list, but that would be QRT. But QSY is, I'm going to change frequency maybe. I'm finished operating on 40, I'm going to QSY to 20 metres. So that's QSY. QSB, if your signal is fading in and out and you have quite a lot of variation in your signal strength, well then you could be said to be suffering QSB. And that is usually a result of band conditions. That's QSB. And then the late addition, which I've just added, QRT, means I'm finished operating for the day. I'm going to go and have some lunch or whatever it is. But either way, if you're going to stop operating, you're said to be going QRT. So they're the Q codes that we're going to go through. Here are some other words, phrases, which still could be a bit confusing if you're new. So let's start here with over. And there are two uses for over. First off, you might say over at the end of your particular transmission to indicate to the other station that you've finished transmitting. I might say, all right, Jeff, back to you. This is M0JSX, over. And simply means I'm going to stop transmitting now and it's over to you. Alternatively, over is also used for the duration of your transmitting period. So if Jeff and I were having a QSO, to go back to the phrase we've just learnt, and I finished talking, from the moment I pressed the transmit button to the moment I've released it again, that's said to be an over. So I might say to Jeff, there was a bit of QSB on your last over, so I missed the middle part of your transmission. Perhaps you could go again. That was basically saying there's a bit of fading during your last transmission there. I didn't quite catch everything you said. Perhaps you could just go again. So that's what over is in its two uses, both of them perfectly accurate. Moving on to PTT, and well, let's grab our microphone, and it's your transmit button on the side. It's that button there that puts your radio into transmit. It is often on the left-hand side of a microphone. You might also have a foot switch or a separate hand switch, but that is your PTT. It stands for push to talk. So that's what PTT is. Next, HT. Now, an HT is a handheld radio, such as, if I just grab one here, Yaesu's FT5D, which I happen to have here. It's not a phrase we tend to use in the UK, to be completely honest with you. HT is more of an American phrase. Supposedly it stands for handy talkie, but I think normally in the UK we would probably just say handheld. But HT, if you someone's talking about, I'm talking on my HT, they're talking on their handheld radio, or walkie-talkie if you want to go down that route. Rig, that normally refers to a larger radio, so perhaps something like an Icon IC7300 as I use, or maybe it's like a 705. Basically, rig kind of is been imported from CB. There are some amateur radio buffs that would say, oh no, that can't use the word rig. I always have done. Rig, it means your radio. That's all that means. Shack. Now here's another one that I didn't understand when I first came to amateur radio. Shack. What on earth do you mean by your shack? Well, it simply means the place where you operate your radio at home. So for me, my shack is my loft space. Other people might have their shack in a dedicated room of the house, maybe their study, or a garden shed is quite often common, or maybe the garage. But wherever you operate your radio at home, that's your shack. Some amateur radio clubs will also have club shacks. Again, that just means they have a dedicated place where their radios are kept. So that's what a shack is. Now, a net. Not to be confused with the internet, but a net is quite simply a gathering of people all having a conversation together. So quite often you might come across amateur radio nets on the 40 metre band, or maybe the 80 metre band, and the 75 metre band in the States. And often they are an organised thing, so it might be that every morning at 9 o'clock you and a number of your comrades from, I don't know, a particular amateur radio club or a national society all get together on the same frequency, and you all swap messages between each other and signal reports, and oh Dave, you're not as strong as you were yesterday, and Jeff, how's the wife and the kids, that kind of thing. And it's a gathering of people all on the same frequency in a kind of structured way. Normally there might be a net controller who is the person overseeing what's happening on the net, and is ultimately in control of keeping a bit of order and discipline. But that's what a net is. Moving on here. What is Roger? Now, apart from it being someone's name, Roger is normally used as an acknowledgement or an affirmative answer. So Dave, did you catch Jeff's last over? And Dave might come back and say, Roger. Not talking to someone called Roger, it just means, yes, I did. Yes, absolutely. So that's what Roger is. Again, that comes from the military, Roger. In a military-style signal report, you would use Roger as being loud and clear. And moving down here, the penultimate one here, rubber duck. Now, it's not the yellow rubber duck that you have at bath time. It's quite simply normally refers to the antenna shipped with your handheld radio. So this here is the stock antenna as supplied with the Yaesu FT5D. That is known as a rubber duck. They are usually pretty inefficient, and most, not all, but most, might choose to forego their rubber duck for something a bit better, a bit more efficient in terms of getting their signal out there, but that's what a rubber duck is. And the final two here, I've grouped them together, 73 and 88. Quite simply, they're just shorthand messages for 73 means best wishes, and 88 means hugs and kisses. Some people often incorrectly, as it turns out, say 73s and put an S on the end of it, and 88s. Apparently that's not needed, but to be honest with you, I don't think the band police are going to get on you if you do happen to put an S on it. But if the end of a QSO, you might say, all right, Dave, I'm going to go QRT now, so I wish you best 73. And that's my take on what those commonly used phrases are, the jargon of amateur radio, that when you're starting out you might not know. In the comments down below, I'd like to know, what have I missed? What should I include in my list? And perhaps you can give a brief description as well. If you made it this far in the video and you like what I do, please do feel free to click that subscribe button. It really does help me out. And there's also links down below if you'd like to support me financially as well. There's another video coming up over here that the algorithm thinks that you might like next. And until the next time, 73, bye-bye.